Go ahead.
This is more for Yuttadhammo, but would like the other monk's opinion also. Would you agree that some people ordain as monks or nuns because they don't feel like they actually belong to any social group, and the fact that they are monks/nuns gives them some sort of comfort knowing that they are part of something? Also, would it be fair to suggest that it gives them some sort of power, and they like the status and attention they get when out in public, especially in the West? I don't know. I haven't encountered that many monks yet.
You don't have much of an answer?
I mean, for somebody belonging to something, I think that depends, because maybe it's the group that they belong to. It's like any social group. One person won't belong to every different social group. There's a certain group that they fit in with better.
And some people fit in with the monastic crowd. Yeah, I think giving any sort of opinion of why people ordain or so on or conjecturing in this sort of way is quite difficult unless you're actually a monk yourself and have a sense of what it means to be a monk and what it's like to be a monk. The idea of ordaining to become a part of something, I don't know, man. I think for sure some people ordain because they don't fit in with society, but I think in general you'd have to just say that people ordain because they're suffering, because society makes them suffer, because there's a lot of stress and pointless stress. They don't see the point of it. They feel it's pointless. That people would actually, I mean, there's countless reasons why people ordain. Some people ordain, from what seems like to me, because they like being around other men wearing skirts. There are people like this who get a kick or even more out of that kind of thing. I mean, you see, I mean, Buddhism is a huge institution. I mean, there are monks that have that date other monks. There's a dating service in Japan for monks now. So to say why people ordain for various different reasons. In an ideal reason to ordain is for overcoming suffering, for finding the way out of suffering, finding the truth that allows you to become free from suffering. Now, I think what I might agree with is that once monks ordain, no matter what their intentions were before they ordained, and let's assume that imagine we have a monk who ordained with the best of intentions. Now, in general, this is why I said you really have to ordain to even make some sort of conjecture or to even begin to approach what it's like to be a monk, because they change once they ordain. Their idea of what it was to be a monk, or their idea of what they were going to be like as a monk, is never the same as how they actually are as a monk. Just as our idea of who we are in general is never the same as how we actually appear to other people, or how we actually react or actually act in reality. So many monks, when they ordain, the majority of monks when they ordain begin to, or not begin to, instantly develop an ego, or in some cases it's not an ego, but like a they take it on as a role. Like, now I'm a monk, and so they start to act in a certain way. And to an extent, this is proper. A monk should act differently. They should guard themselves, and they should dedicate themselves to the practice. But it should be totally a practical move. They should be guarded in their senses, not looking around and so on. But what happens is quite often, people will take it into their head that they are a monk and begin to develop a role and the idea of I being a monk. This gets worse when they are respected and given support by lay people and maybe even taken up as teachers, and they start to give talks and teach people Buddhism and meditation. Then they can become attached to the status and the attention. I don't know that people ordain for these reasons, and as I said, people ordain for all sorts of reasons, so it's not really fair, but the average person who ordains with good intentions, I don't think it's so much in their mind until after they ordain. It's something that's very easy for a new monk to fall into. And then what happens, I've talked about this before, what you see happens is that they slowly start to become a better monk and have a lower opinion of themselves. So their opinion is like this in the beginning, and their proficiency or their ability as a monk is very low because they've just started out, and it levels out, and eventually if they continue on, the ego disappears and the proficiency as a monk increases. Even monks who aren't that dedicated to the teaching or to meditation, once they've been ordained for 10 years, 20 years, what you generally tend to see is they're quite humble, quite laid back, quite comfortable in just being who they are. And that actually is in general a fairly good, well-behaved monk who fits in well with the system. If they don't, then they tend to disrobe or start their own new school of Buddhism or so on. Like this. So I don't know if that's helpful. That's the answer.